Hey everybody, I'm Randy Silvas.
And I'm Tony Mullick, and welcome to this special presentation of Into the Pit. Ever since Slotrods began, the biggest question I get asked is how do you get the cars stopped at the end of the track safely?
Through our first 6 months of racing, back in 2019, we tried several different methods, none of which worked very well.
Finally, we settled on something that I tried, a large plastic Tupperware bin with a hole we cut in the side, big enough to put the track through, filled with all the t-shirts I had when I was still an extra large.
Yeah, and that was quite a long time ago.
Shimmy up a tree, skinny boy. Whenever anyone would ask me how I was stopping the cars at the end, I really didn't want to recommend anything, because on our best day, 20% of the time, the cars were catching damage going into the catch bin.
And that left us with the problem of the cars jumping out of the catch bin sometimes. So we threw a blanket over the top, only leaving the opening exposed.
At one point, Keith Bean worked on a contraption that was a step in the right direction, but we just couldn't quite perfect it.
But just recently, Mark and Jake Rendos from Team Moton came up with a pretty cool idea.
So it's with great pleasure that we finally get to bring something truly useful to the slot car drag racing community.
So with the introduction of their invention, there's no reason any longer for anyone to be afraid of trying no prep racing on a plastic track.
And now, without further ado, we turn it over to Mark and Jake Rendos. Take it away, boys.
Hi, Jake.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing good. All right. So tell us about all the way to this stuff and how you came up with it and why.
All right, so you have your just regular bread keeper. You can get that at Walmart for a couple bucks. This is a Gladiator gear track. It lets you put different tools up, but you just need the sliding track. Need a piece of junk track or something you don't mind cutting up and destroying.
Now, why did you use the humped track?
It's just what we had laying around. It's a little bit longer, so it's easier to manipulate.
Okay.
You need these long flat bolts that you can get from Lowe's. Here's the information. The elevator bolts. Need a couple old rags, and a piece of plexiglass.
A piece of plexiglass.
Yep.
All right. Now, give me the basic description of what each thing does, how it works together.
Okay, so this is your base. It allows everything to slide together. These elevator bolts, they just sit in here, and they allow everything to move.
Could you do that a little bit slower? Okay.
The bread bin is your catch bin. So this is where the car will go into. The rag is like a cushion. And this is your end track, which will guide your cars. You have to split it open so that the cars go into each box, because each box will slide on just like so.
Okay. And everything is about slowing down inertia.
Yep.
And this over here, there's two more pieces on their way right now that we're waiting on before we get into building. But those two pieces, you can see where they've cut them up and brought the rag up through. Whenever your car hits it, it has to pull that down through. It doesn't just fall. Good.
All right, and then we finally got these. These are just 3-quart scoops from Tractor Supply. It's used for like feeders, like to get animal feed, and we'll just cut the back off of these to make the
Make this.
Yep. So that it funnels the car into the bread bin.
Yep. Go ahead.
Okay, so you want to make sure you're pretty much centered on the space, but in the back you want to leave a little room. You want to leave them wide because they open up in the front and get narrower in the back. And if we had them both together, they'd both move together. But this way, if you leave the space, this one will be able to slide without bringing the other one with it.
Right, so they move independently.
Correct.
Nice.
So just try to hold them centered. Always helps with 2 people.
Yep, you just want to line up and put a dot right over the hole, like right where the slot is and where you want your hole. And that will give you where to drill.
And those are for the 2 elevator bolts.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so with the elevator bolts, they're a little long. If you can find them in a 1-inch, that would be better, but we cut them down to about a 1-inch long shank.
And that is after. Okay, there's those black marks that he had just put on there, and that's where they're going to drill the holes for the elevator bolts.
Correct. Since we're using 5/16 elevator bolts, we're going to drill them 1/4 inch holes so that they fit snugly in.
Okay. Is that it?
We do run a tap through just to make it a little bit easier to get them started in, but you can definitely do it by hand if you wanted to, but this just gives it a little bit of something to bite to.
Just how you roll down here. Nice. That's it.
We usually just thread them in the flush to a little bit beyond flush on the inside, because you definitely don't want your car hitting into them.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. You were having trouble picturing what they said before? Here's how it works.
These will just slide. You put your elevator bolt into the slot, like so, and then they will just, well, once you get this out, so they just slide.
Basic technology we've been using for hundreds of years.
Okay, so there's these holes in the back of the canister.
That comes from the factory that way.
Correct. They come from the factory that way, and to line them up and to make sure that we can get them in there correctly, we'll find the hole in it and then just punch through
Very
with
nice.
the screwdriver.
Okay.
And then he'll just make it a little bit bigger.
Sorry for the camera work, folks.
Okay, and then we'll just put a zip tie. Again, like everything, it always works better with two people.
And zip ties.
I'll just leave that for you.
Okay, so just feed it up through. Just line up your zip tie with the holes.
Yep, and then just try to spread the material out as wide as you can. Just pull the zip tie, and that's what it should look like on the inside.
One might call that slick.
Okay, so then put the next one.
Just do the same thing.
Okay, so you put two of them in there. Gotcha.
Right. Okay, now, and then on this one, I don't even think we're going to need to, bud. How do
Yeah,
we
we should be
Right, we'll just come up.
do the
So
same
it'll be
thing.
the same thing.
Sandwich in a second one to use the other two holes on the rear end. Yeah, this second was a little harder than the first one.
Yeah, a little less room.
Spread.
And believe it or not, folks,
That's
wrecks have almost ceased over these.
You want to get the snippers? Yep.
And here's our 3-quart scoop. Is that right? 3-quart scoop?
Yes.
That's how it's cut out. Let's spin that around a little so we can see the backside. There it is. Now, show them how that fits on.
We'll just open up the sides, slide it over,
Nice and snug.
and then it's up to you if you want to duct tape it or you can pop rivets in the side. We just use duct tape for ease of it when we build ours, but however you want to do yours.
And then they pull the cloth up through,
Yep, the cloth will come up through like that.
and the
Bottom
scoop
one
sits
down.
on a little bit more so that it kind of hangs onto that cloth a little bit and keeps it from going through unless it gets smacked by a car.
To make the track a little bit more friendly for the cars to go in, we're going to drill a hole at the top of the first stripe,
Mm-hmm.
and then we're going to grind a cut line all the way down to the hole. We're going to drill the hole so it doesn't crack any further. Then we're going to get the heat gun out, and we're going to try to stretch it out to where these are more centered going into.
Right on. And with any luck, it's going to look like that.
So if you want to picture the hole drilled.
Okay, right like that. And here's the cut. Now, that rough cut that he made there, what'd you make that with?
Just a grinder with a cutoff wheel.
All right, 4-inch grinder with a cutoff wheel.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so when you're heating it up, we like to make sure that we put another piece of track. Yeah, put it together so that when you heat and bend it,
Everything stays in line.
it stays in line so you can still use it. Correct.
Nice.
So then that should help. So when we stretch it and flatten it out, it'll stay all together.
All right, we're good.
Okay, so we're going to start by trying to flatten out the...
Oh yeah, it's one of those where you flash to the screen and says a few moments later.
It's cool how you can see like the plastic start to change whenever it starts getting warm.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of glides it up in.
Yeah, I was gonna say that little hump probably helps to act like our old ramp used to going into the catch bin. Remember, folks, it's all about stopping inertia. Every little thing that goes against that inertia helps us. Any little bit of friction you can create. Okay, so what are we doing now?
We're going to heat up into this center section here and see if we can pull them apart.
All right. Good luck.
Thank you. Heat it.
There it's coming.
Might be good right there.
Okay, you want me to measure?
Yeah. We try to shoot, seems like 1.5 inches is the magic mark. 1.25 inches actually.
Oh, right on.
So we'll just let that cool.
This is what holds the Legos on our curve.
It's a good day. We find a reason to break out the old glue gun.
Yeah.
Nice. And it's funny how it's rainy outside today, and I don't think I've ever run a glue gun when it wasn't rainy outside.
Really?
Yeah, because it's a rainy day activity.
That's true.
Okay, did you give them the measurements off of this?
No. I'm
Oh, okay. Yeah. What's the? What are we looking at there?
If you're using the hump piece like we are, we found it 19 inches long, 2.5 inch to 3.5 inch will fit nicely in between, and then we just run the bead of hot glue on each side, set something hot down on it to keep it all together. Something heavy, not hot.
Something heavy. That's all right.
So what do we have?
Maybe.
All right, we have another one. It can be a different size. Wait. Perfect. Okay, so now just run your. Oh, I guess we gotta wait for that to heat up. You'd think we'd be prepared. All right. So go ahead, son. Just load up. We will go through.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Can run a bead on the outside if you want, real quick, or a couple spots.
Okay. And there you go, folks. That's how you do that.
Dude, when we first raced with these things, I was a bit skeptical, but
The entire final day of the underground, we used these two right here, and we retreated to an entire day with no accidents at the catch bin.
and we use purposely heavy cars that are clearing an 1/8 mile at scale in under a second. So if they work for us, they'll work for you.
And the ones you just saw being built were being built for the 724 Speedway. And check it out, they riveted mine instead of duct tape.
Yeah, they look pretty sharp, buddy. Well, there you go, folks. We promised you a revelation, and we brought you a revelation.
But wait, there's more.
The second most asked question we get is about our power.
We started out with two 18-volt exclusive transformers, one per lane.
And that got two 40K motors down the track for about 30 feet. Of course, that was only 0.6 amps at 18 volt.
And we rode those transformers until Xavier burned one of them up.
Oh, yeah, it was smoking.
Smoking, the attenuator damn near caught fire in his hand.
So, Xavier's dad Tim, Tony, and Keith bought our first Professor Motor 20-volt transformer. And that's 20 volts with a lot more amps.
Yeah, enough to launch every headache I've had since.
So, as an extra treat, here's some Into the Pit action from Season 1.
Hey, what do you say, people? Tony from the 724 here. This is kind of an urgent little addendum we're doing to the Into the Pit episode we did. It was Season 1, Episode 5.5. And we talked about the track and we talked about the power. And back then we said that they had stopped making the 18-volt power packs that we used. And we recommended the Professor Motor DC power supply. It's 20 volts and 15 amps. And as you see here, you get a nice option where you on the left there you can fine tune it. On the right you can set your voltage, and then you can fine tune it on the left. We ended up running a 1/4 mile scale, 2 lanes, and we ran it at a little less than 19 to get it to run like it did at 18. This is where you hook the jumpers onto, and these are the jumpers. These were $26. We bought 2 sets of them because we want to be able to race 4-lane, and this is what one end of them looks like, and on the other end you get enough leads to do 2 lanes. So it allows you to take that outboard power supply and hook it up to a regular Carrera Evolution start track. Well, recently we had to buy one of these, and whenever we did, it hooked right up to my old start track. My start track I bought years ago. And one of our members decided to go out and get a start track and a couple of pieces of track and one of these transformers so that he could test cars at home. And he was having trouble getting it to work because he hooked the jumpers up and hooked the transformer up, and it just wouldn't push his cars. It wouldn't move them at all. And he couldn't figure out why. And he brought all of his stuff down, and we tested and found out that the only difference was his starter track wasn't working with the transformer, even with the jumpers that were sent to him by Carrera. And here's what we found out. This is my track from underneath, and you'll see that there is a capacitor here and a capacitor here, and we have our wiring up in here. On the one that does not work, we have caps here and also caps in here. So, here's the rub, people. If you decide you're going to do one of these tracks and you buy a Carrera Evolution starter track, the newer tracks have capacitors where these little black wires are here. See this little black wire and this little black wire over here? Well, on the new ones, there's a capacitor in between those 2 points where the black wires are. So there'd be a capacitor in the middle of this wire, and there'd be a capacitor in the middle of this wire. So basically, if you want to get it to work, this is what it needs to look like. Instead of a capacitor, you need a wire jumper on each one of these. That's what the old ones look like. We've already done it to our one member's track, and it works. But honestly, folks, we can't recommend that you do this. This is changing what Carrera has made. I'm sure they wouldn't recommend it, and we don't want to take responsibility for you messing anything up on your track and breaking it. This is purely purely on the user. But if you're having trouble getting your Professor motor DC power supply to work with your Carrera Evolution start track, this is why, and that's your solution. And that's all I can really tell you, folks. So thanks for tuning in. If you're trying to build a system at home and you were having trouble getting it to work, and this is the reason, I apologize, but we just found this out ourselves and we had to find it out by trial and error. So there you go, folks. So until next time, this is Tony Mullick from the 724, and you've been watching a production of Slotrods.
The answer is no, you ain't got a chance. She's out of your league, just let the girl dance. No creeping allowed, yo, you just get a glance. Don't try to swing game, yo, just let the girl dance. The answer is no, you ain't got a chance. She's out of your league, just let the girl dance. You can watch a show blow from a distance, but give her some bass on, let the girl dance.